Welcome, I'm Michael Bickert. Thanks for joining me today as we explore concepts with the objective of improving your management skills and growing your business. I hope you have your notepads and your pens handy because I want you to make a commitment that you'll take some notes, jot down some sort of action item that you will implement in your business today, something that will drive improvement, drive your business forward. That's what this is all about. Now, let me ask you this. Are you in a rut or are you following a routine? What is the difference? I think about my days, and certainly my work days, they tend to be very similar. And actually throughout the week, whether it's a work day or I have a day off and I'm engaging in leisure, I have routines that I follow. And when we talk about whether something you're in a rut or a routine, there's a great deal of similarities there, and you got to be careful, and they can overlap, and it can be a little bit sort of insidious the way a routine could become a bit of a rut. And so I guess the way I would define it has to do with the outcome. Consider the productivity level of your day to ascertain whether or not you would define what you're doing as a ritual and disciplined habits, therefore a routine, or a rut. If you're actually spinning your wheels, you're getting nowhere, you're making no progress. That's what we want to do, right? I always talk about driving your business forward, making progress. And I was thinking the other day, I took a couple of days off last week, and have you had this happen where I couldn't figure out what day it was? I was going about my business, I was doing some extra little things and engaging in some hobbies, and I thought, what day is today? And sometimes you have a long weekend or whatever and you get confused at what day of the week it is. But more than that, I had this nagging feeling that I was forgetting something. And sure enough, I did forget something. I forgot one commitment that I had made. But even if I hadn't forgot that, it wasn't a big deal. It was a day off and it wasn't a business appointment or something like that. But I did forget a commitment that I had made. And you will have this every now and then, this nagging feeling in the back of your mind when you get out of your ritual. And that's what happened. You'll notice this on long weekends or whenever your usual routine is interrupted. And that nagging feeling in and of itself is enough for me to go, I kind of like sticking to my routines. It reminds me of trying to multitask. And I've got a whole video on the fact that there is no such thing as multitasking. It's completely ineffective. And that's what it reminds me of when I get that feeling, that nagging feeling in the back of my mind. It's like, what am I missing? There's something I'm forgetting. I should be doing something. And even if I can never place it, and perhaps I didn't miss anything, the nagging feeling interrupts my day and it doesn't allow me to focus. So we can all appreciate that when you get some disciplined habits and ritual going, that you can sort of operate on autopilot and you can go through your day very effectively. And I would really encourage you to do that. My best practice, and I would encourage you to do this as well, is I try to get the most important things that I have to do in a day done first thing in the day. It's the first thing I want to do. Those are my commitments. I do them and I sort of organize them from the most important and sort of descending in order from there in terms of importance. And so that way, if something does interrupt, if something gets in the way and I have to call an audible, if I have to divert my attention from my usual routine and I have to do something different, then at least the most important stuff was done. There's a better chance of the most important things being done. And if I do get interrupted early in the day, and I am going to start later in the day, I will reorganize my appointments to the extent that it's possible and practical in order to put those first things first again, to put the most important things at the beginning of the day and back everything off, as opposed to skipping that important thing and going into the second or third appointment. And that's one thing I just find it really settles me in terms of my mental well-being. I like knowing that I got the most important things done, because I also know, and I've spent years learning the hard way, if you don't get the most important things done and you don't schedule them and get them out of the way, then you end up missing them entirely, and you can be incredibly ineffective. Actually, this morning, when I was driving to my first appointment, I decided to take a different route. There were actually two ways to get to this particular location where I had my first appointment of the day. And the usual route that I take is the most direct route. It is the shortest distance. However, it's not the fastest route. I could go where it involves highway and more, higher speeds, and you can get there a little bit quicker. So I decided to do that. Sometimes I'll go to the appointment one way and come home the other way, and they're really similar in time. My point is, today I broke with my ritual. I went a different way, and that feeling came to me. When I arrived at my appointment, I was sort of out of sorts. I was thinking, I feel like I'm missing something. It just bothers me in some way, and I'm not sure exactly what that is. Have you experienced this? But all I can tell you is that it's not a good feeling, and I'm just not on my game as much as I ordinarily would be. So that's where I really like these disciplined habits and the routine. So I would encourage you to form disciplined habits and create a routine that enables you to operate in autopilot, because then you can do things a little bit more effectively. If something that comes out of left field, so to speak, and you have to pivot, or you have to change, you need to focus right away. You don't have any distractions, and you don't have that nagging feeling in the back of your head where you're like, am I forgetting something? Did I leave something at home or whatever? I have little rituals that I do to try to look after this so I can more or less operate on autopilot as well. Like when I leave the house, I count items that I know I need with me always. For example, you're gonna need, if you're driving, you're gonna need your fob for your car, and you may need your wallet, and because it has your driver's license in it. There might be, in my case, there's 4 things that I always want to make sure that I have with me. And for you, I'm not sure what that number is, but I do the count. I literally count, maybe under my breath or in my mind, as I'm stepping into my garage. I make sure that I have those 4 things, because it's just a routine, and it's a disciplined habit, and it saves me from having to forget something, or the hassle of the day and that nagging feeling that you get. Even if you don't forget something, if I didn't do that little, it sounds a little bit maybe obsessive compulsive what I'm doing, and perhaps it is. I have a little bit of that nature, but it really calms me. And I think there's something to this, and I don't know the physiology of the brain of why this is, but I'm more on my game, and I'm able to focus, concentrate better. I don't have any distractions, and I'm more effective as a person. And I would encourage you to consider, if you're a little scatterbrained sometimes because you're disorganized, are you the type of person who, when you're leaving the house, you frequently forget something, or you have to turn around and come back? Or when you're at an appointment, maybe you're a little disheveled, or your papers are out of order, whatever the case may be. If that's in your nature, then I would encourage you to try to add a little bit of discipline in your habits to form a routine that will really sort of settle. Now, we talked about, is this a routine or is this a rut? And I said it can be a little insidious, where your routine can become a rut. And we talked about the difference between the two being the outcome and what your results are. So give some consideration to your days. Are you happy with what you're getting? Remember, if you keep on doing what you've been doing, you're gonna keep on getting what you've been getting. And if you're unhappy with what you've been getting, you need to change things. So this morning, when I went to that appointment, a different route, I would say, or route, depending on which country you're in when you're watching this, then I often find when I do this, even though I said to you the disadvantages, I feel a little off and it distracts me a little bit from getting out of my routine, every now and then I discover something that is more effective. There's a bit of an improvement or an innovation. So I mean, in my example was just driving somewhere, but it might be in a process in your business. Is there something you always do the same way? I love to cook, and when I cook, I almost never follow a recipe. Even when I bake, you're supposed to follow recipes when you bake, because they say that cooking is art and baking is science. But even when I bake, I don't like to follow recipes, and every now and then I have a catastrophe, but often it turns out really well. The disadvantage is I have a hard time duplicating a really good quote unquote recipe. or dish that I made, because it's always a little bit different. But the reason that is in my personality is I love to innovate, perpetual refinement. I always look for ways to do things a little bit better. And that's one of the disadvantages of a routine. If you get too hung up, too disciplined, that you sort of convince yourself mentally, no, I can't deviate from my routine at all, you will also stifle progress and you won't have those opportunities for innovation. Every now and then I make a mistake, something that really bothers me, and I've learned over the years to just sort of chill and be a little bit more stoic in my response to quote unquote mistakes, because often these lead to improvement. It's like, oh, I didn't know, I didn't want for that to happen. I didn't plan for that, but my response to it actually resulted in something better occurring. And I could give you umpteen examples about this happening throughout my life. And I would also encourage you to think about that. So today, if something goes a little off course, if something is, doesn't go according to plan, just sort of handle it with even temperament and try to fix the issue, try to meet your objectives, and see if you can't actually improve upon things, an innovation. So deviating from your plan, either intentionally, that's what I really would recommend, but even when it occurs unintentionally, maintain your cool and see what you learn from it. And every now and then you go, oh, you know what? Like in my example of cooking, you go, well, this didn't turn out better. No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go back to more salt or whatever the case may be. And then, it's like experimenting in science. You change one variable here and there and you look at the outcome. And was it what you predicted? Was it predictably better? In which case, now what I would recommend in that case is document that in some way so that you remember. If you're not going to be able to memorize everything, and even if you can memorize it, you often want to pass these tips and improvements, these innovations along to your team. So it's best to document them and then have everybody on board and say, okay, well, this time we're going to do this just a little bit different. We're going to run this meeting a little bit different. And then you can discuss it later. A meeting being just an example. And how did you guys feel that went? Did you like this format a little bit better? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? And then continue to adjust your disciplined habits, your routines, to make sure that you're always progressing, always getting forward. Because the definition of the rut varies from one individual to another. You might say, well, I'm following a disciplined routine and I like it and I feel that I'm making progress, but somebody next to you is just innovating just a little bit more than you are, their routine, and they're making far more progress. They are getting ahead faster than you are. Give consideration to this. And for goodness sake, if you know that you're in a rut, if you're unhappy with the results you've been getting, now you have to be very disciplined about making some changes. So sometimes our routines involve not focus on those most important things. You're actually focused rather on, well, you're not even focused. You're reactive, you're allowing your day to happen to you, or maybe you instinctively go right to your email and you get into the tyranny of the inbox, or you read the newspaper, you watch the news. Does anyone actually read a physical newspaper anymore? I think they still have them. But you get on to social media and you're checking everything. Those types of things, I would put those more in the category of rut, unless you can honestly say, no, they're actually helping me be more productive. They're very important for whatever particular reason. I mean, there's a place for all of those things in your life, but if it's strictly a time waster or it's urgent and it's not important, that's more about the rut, and you're not following that. So when that's the case, and if you are doing some introspection and you realize things are not going the way I want them to, you need to change. You need to make these disciplined habits and focus on those things. Take my advice, what I'm saying, and do some of these most important things first. And if you don't know what those are, it's time to sit down and strategize. Whenever in my life I'm noticing sort of a psychological or even a physiological phenomenon that occurs, I really become very observant and analytical about it. And I try to ask myself, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is this making me more effective? Is this making me a better person? Or is this detracting from my happiness and success, my contentedness? And That's where, I was last week when this happened to me, and I was having this, should have been a great day, but I had that nagging feeling. I thought, you know what? I need to explore this. I need to ask myself, how can I enjoy a good day and get outside of my usual routine and still actually, avoid I want to have peaceful feelings, avoid the nagging, feeling of being a little disheveled or a little disoriented, and like, what day of the week is it? Am I forgetting anything? There are ways that we can sort of have the best of both worlds, have our cake and eat it too. And that's why I like to explore these concepts. I don't know if you got anything out of today's conversation. I would encourage you, as a tip, is to, when you notice these things in yourself, sort of explore them and just ask yourself, how can I improve? That's what this is about, right? And the degree to which you are able to improve yourself is often related to how much you're going to be able to spread that improvement throughout your organization, with your people, share your ideas with your people, and your business will improve. So I think that's where I want to leave it today. Are you in a rut, or are you following a routine? Remember that they can overlap. Remember that the distinction between the two can get a little bit hazy. You can define it based on how productive you are, how much progress you're making, and at any rate, you need to be introducing a little bit of changes, even to those disciplined habits, even to your routine, so that you can improve. Always be improving. So I don't know, did you get something out of this? Did you like that? Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you had this occur to you when you're on your days off, or when you change things slightly and it sort of messes up everything? How do you handle that? Leave something in the comments that we can all learn from, because we need to learn from one another. Perpetual refinement.